Good morning, everybody. Let me continue with the second part of the tutorial morning. And in contrast to Marcus, I will try to involve you in this tutorial. That means you could go to this wiki and use it while I'm talking. The best thing would be, actually, they are all lowercase letters here. I'm sorry. So if you go there, click on the right-hand top corner and register as a user, enter your name, and follow the process. And later on, I'll give a small demonstration of the wiki, and then you can use the wiki while I'm doing it and learn how it works yourself. SMW Plus, that's what I'm going to talk about. It's an extension on top of Semantic MediaWiki, providing some additional functionalities. So, and in case you have any questions, just raise your hand and will be no problem to, and I try to answer it immediately. So the structure of the talk is like this. I give an overview of SMW Plus, its features and what it provides on top of Semantic MediaWiki. Then I will give a demonstration of certain features, and you can try these features out yourself. And in the second half of this tutorial, I try to give a small introduction into what ontologies are, if you want a data model of the wiki, and then use the power of ontologies within the wiki. Also followed by an hands-on session. So all you need to follow this tutorial is your computer, and I guess everyone has one. Go into this wiki page, and while I talk in the next 10-15 minutes or so, please create your user account, and in order to be able to work with the wiki later on. This has changed in the last half hour, so the answer is no. I'm sorry for this. So the general setup of SMW Plus is like this. It's a set of extensions based on Semantic MediaWiki, which in turn is based on MediaWiki. And the development of SMW Plus has been sponsored by Vulkan, which is a company located in Seattle, and the owner of this company is Paul Allen, the founder of Microsoft. And he's funding the Halo project, and within the Halo project, SMW Plus is one of the development strands there. And the goals of SMW Plus were to enhance the accessibility or usability, if you want, of the semantic features which Semantic MediaWiki provides. In Marcus's presentations, we have seen a lot of curly brackets and angle brackets and stuff. They are providing the power of the semantic features in the wiki, but they're not so easy to use. And if you try to implement this SMW approach in your company, this might be a steep learning curve for the users. Having some easy access mechanisms to the same features should be required, and SMW Plus provides these mechanisms. So maybe this is a little repetition to what Marcus told in the morning. So SMW Plus, as Semantic MediaWiki, is in the first place a wiki. It's a collaboration platform which is web-based and provides you access to content, saying text and images, and interlink those things. The second aspect of SMW is it's a database. It can store data, and it can make this data accessible via query. And the beauty of the Semantic MediaWiki world is probably why you are here, is that you can combine those things. You can combine the textual appeal of a content management system with the data management facilities provided by a database. So a few screenshots at the beginning before I sit down at the computer and demonstrate things. one of the components of Semantic MediaWiki is a rich text editor, providing you with a WYSIWYG way of creating pages. As you can see here, you see the bullet lists directly. You see the annotations in the wiki page while you author them. You can add images and tables and change the layout and coloring and so on, all on the page without knowing the wiki markup for this. Second feature is related to retrieving the data. We saw the ask features before, which allow you to query for data. And this is quite powerful, but it's lacking one important aspect, namely full text search. Typically, you're used to use Google or stuff. You enter a keyword and you find pages which are relevant for this keyword. And if you combine this text search with the semantic features of Semantic MediaWiki, which has property values for subject, you can come up with a quite powerful search and retrieval mechanism which allows you to do faceted search on the data combined with free text search. And the next component is the so-called Data Explorer. It used to be called the Ontology browser, and what it does is it displays the ontology which is stored in the wiki. That means the category tree, the taxonomy of categories, and also the taxonomy of properties. Here it can display the instances which are relevant for these categories, and it can also display the property values for the instances, and it can display the schema information for properties related to a certain category. In the wiki, all this information is also visible without graphical tools like this, but they are spread around on many different pages. Markus talked about the property page, which has some annotations that you can see on the right-hand side, referring to its schema. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about the query interface, and also going to present it later in the demonstration. The query interface allows you to essentially create ask queries via clicking in this interface and constructing a query like you see on the right-hand side. This is asking for, give me all instances of the category self-governed country which are valid until 1995. That means which has expired before that date, and you get immediately a list of answers for these queries. Whenever you change the queries, the result list at the bottom, the preview of it, is recomputed at this same time. That means you can create queries in this ask syntax, even including subqueries, without knowing the syntax. You just select properties and categories, enter restrictions, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate now a few things, and I would like to invite you to go to the wiki and do more or less the same thing that I do on different pages. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. So this reads diqa-serve-http.surfhttp.com/SMWEEMO. Okay, did anyone succeed in creating a user account yet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did anyone not succeed? Who tried? Okay, so I'll give you a few more minutes while I get set up here. first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new article. So, and either you just watch for a few seconds or minutes and then do it yourself, or you try to follow me while I'm doing it. So on every page there's a button called New Page, which you can click, and the pop-up dialog will appear, which asks you to enter the name of the new page. So I just give it a page title, and then I select the empty article in WYSIWYG editor, meaning, okay, I want to create this article using the rich text editor. And by the way, please choose another name. Okay, while I'm here, I can just write any text like you are used from your Word or text processing program. Things like and you see in the top, you see this icon bar, which allows you to change the layout of the page as you are used from your word processing. And you also see that there are certain things here which are actually not covered by Wikimarker, like changing the color of text. This is not part of the wiki, the MediaWiki syntax. This has to be, we have to refer to HTML in this for these features, but the text editor nevertheless can handle those things. So, and one particular thing which is very complicated in MediaWiki markup is tables. You can do everything with tables, and but getting them, setting them up is really a pain. So that means we have means for creating tables within this editor directly, and there's no need to learn wiki markup. Adding links, of course, is also possible. Since the wiki is a content management system which lives from linking pages and referring to other things, this is an essential feature. So doing this is fairly easy. You just highlight a word which becomes the label of the link, and you can use this second text box to define the target of this link. For example, the main page, as you can see, after I stop typing, I get a list of suggested targets for this page. I just select this one, and this gets turned into a link. And links, of course, don't only work within the wiki, but also are possible to point to the outside world. this is how the page looks like in edit mode, while after I save this thing, it should look more or less the same. The table has been changed a little bit, but this would allow your users to work with the wiki using tools that they are familiar with. The approach is the same, no need to learn any wiki mark. So maybe I give you 5 minutes or something to play with the wiki editor and answer questions if you have any. Does it work for anyone?
I think more advanced editor doesn't work on iPad. Is that correct?
If you're using Firefox, I think it will work.
Yeah. I think it has to do with Java support.
Yeah, that's possible. I didn't try it, so I can't tell. But you did. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, no iPad for the rich text editor.
What should happen clicking on add property button?
You will see in 5 minutes. So this is about the basic text authoring right now. So no semantics yet.
Possible to extend this text editor with some features?
With custom features.
Yes.
What would you like?
No, I want to make some extension for Excel sheet include or something like this. I don't know.
Okay, actually you can drag and drop Excel sheets and Microsoft Word snippets into the editor already, and they should keep the layout. I can try, but so to answer your question, yes, it's possible to extend this. Actually, we extended an existing editor called CK editor, and all the features that you see in the icon line there, they essentially come from us. So that means it is possible to extend. Just to prove that it's really the case, I just have a sample Word document. I copy the content and paste it here. Word. So it keeps the layout. After saving, it will lose a little bit, but essentially it keeps the layout, including the header information and so on. And this just comes from copy and paste into this module. The same is true for Excel tables, but of course you will only get the layout, right? So no translation into triples or annotations and so on. Yeah. But I think this is quite a good feature if you employ your Semantic MediaWiki in companies, for example, being able to work with rich data which you already have. I mean, rich content. Okay. So did you play enough? If not, I think this wiki will be around even in the future, so you can go back there and play with the features if you want. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another page, which which I'm going to turn into data now, which is why we're here. Semantic features are important. But I'll do this exact same thing. Create an empty article using the WYSIWYG editor. And maybe you can do the same, because while we are talking about data, it's fairly easy to combine the data, everything that you create, with whatever I create. And we can see later on in the result of a query what we have all authored together. So let me try this, and you can do a similar thing. So it's going to be, this is a page about tasks, which we must execute sometime, and we are going to add some data about this task now. For example, the description, or the start date. Let's do it on Halloween. And the deadline should be end of the year. And who is going to do this? So this is pure text now only, but if you want to make queries later for what are the tasks in the wiki, whether they are due or not, when should they be finished, who is supposed to do them, we can extend the icon bar here, and this will give us some additional functionality, including semantic features, I would say. So, but let me do something first. So because I said this is talking about the task, we should put it in the category of task, which allows us to find it better later, and also provides us with some features. So I just simply click on this C button, saying, okay, this page should belong to a certain category, and now I can type task. The task does not exist, but something called SMW /task does exist, and if you choose this one, I will have it easier later to find the tasks that you created and get a list of everything. And because the system now knows this page is talking about a task, it can even help me in annotating this task, adding data to it in the proper way. So I select the text, and when I click here and just click Control Space in this red box, I will get a list of all properties which exist in the wiki, but the properties on top of this list are those which are applicable to tasks. It means, okay, a task can be assigned to someone, they have a description, they have an end and a start date, and they are related to a certain project. So, and coincidentally, I have this data as text already in the page. I only need to mark it up. so that it can be retrieved later and display the query results and so on. So I selected the description, and I simply need to select the description property here. What I'm doing now is I create a property value pair for this description on this page. Let me do the same thing for the properties. I'm going to show you a query right now which lists all the tasks which are there. Actually, someone already created a task. So there are 2 tasks already saved by someone, and the other ones here assigned to Fred. They pre-exist in this wiki as sample data. When I go now to my page and save this one, we'll come back to this. Oh, actually, I should not use this. I should use the proper feature to refresh the data, which means go and execute all queries on this page again. So we see that there is the task that I created, assigned to me. Carsten created the task, and Hans and Christian as well. So that means the data is there, few people just authored them, and in a central place I can collect all this data, and now I see what's going on, and even including the dates and titles and so on. And I can click on this task and see how the page actually looks now. And I think this also demonstrates nicely the power of the semantic wiki. The data can be authored in many different places by many different people at different times, but the data flows together into single places in queries where I can access all this data. So I'm quite happy with the result already. So if you don't have any questions, I would continue to demonstrate the query features next. No objections. Okay, when I go into this page here, you'll see the WYSIWYG editor, and the query is simply rendered as with this little icon. This represents the complete query. But actually the query looks like this. So we're looking for tasks, and we want to retrieve certain data like the start date, the end date, and who the task has been assigned to. So as you see here, many brackets again, and some, I would say, awkward syntax. It's powerful, but you need to know it, right? So there are means which help you to avoid the requirement of needing to know the syntax. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create the same query that was on the page with this graphical user interface, and so you can see how this works. By the way, I got there by going to this link at the top of this page. Do you also see this link on your pages? Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm only interested in task, and I'm selecting the task category for this purpose and saying, okay, please add this restriction to the query. So it's listed on the right-hand side, and immediately after the query had been changed, the query result preview already shows me something. That means when I misspell something in the query or so, I would immediately be informed, because the query result will look different than I would expect. So this gives me good feedback whether I'm on the right track towards formulating my query. And in the query options, you can select the different query formats which are currently installed in this wiki. Instead of the table, which is the default, you can also say, okay, just give me a list of things, or give me this bullet list of stuff, and so on. So this nicely reflects all the things that you define. If you go to the query code, as the part of the GUI, you could just copy and paste this stuff and copy this into your wiki page if you want. Okay, so what was it? We wanted to see all tasks and their start and end date. In the same way as before, autocompletion provides me with the proper properties which are applicable to tasks. Okay, please show me the end date, and maybe I should change back to the table view, because this better shows the structure of the query and the result. Adding more properties like the end date. And in this case, you can see, okay, I want to see the property that I just entered, or I want to require that the property is there, and then I can even change the labels which are displayed on top of the table, for example. Like this. And now we see all the tasks which do have end date. If there would be a task where no end date would have been defined, then this would not show up in the result. Actually, this is something that we could test. So there are currently 10 tasks which have an end date and fulfill the requirements. So if I drop this restriction now, maybe, okay, 4 of you guys didn't create an end date for your task. That's what I just found out. Anyway. And you can not only formulate properties in order to see them in the result, we can also formulate properties where we want to define restrictions. That means to further filter the list of values. So maybe I'm filtering the query now for a specific value, namely I only want to see the tasks assigned to Greg. So I see a list of all the tasks which fulfill this restriction. So maybe now you can go to the query interface page here and try to formulate a similar query, finding all the tasks, maybe the tasks that have been defined by yourself. And let me know how it works. And if not, as well. success so far.
Yeah. Possible query the tasks based on the task title.
Partly ask, does support certain.
I mean, I want to search for a task that starts with the letter P.
Yeah, I think that's possible. But I don't know how. Okay, apparently it's not possible. Any, do you know? Can I ask a query which only returns instances with a certain, that start with an E? Okay, something that should be possible is if you ask for a property value, you should have restrictions like this. Okay, description is text, so for text probably this is also not possible. If it would be a string, you would be able to say matches this regular expression. But the title of the page seems not to be supported. And I think this is already an SMW restriction, not a restriction of the user interface. The user interface has restrictions, I'm sure, but this one probably is not. Okay, so one thing, maybe this already also goes into a similar direction. Okay, before I do this, let me copy this query just that I don't forget it and go back to my page. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to embed a query into a page, right? So queries are usually stored on pages because normal wiki users are like everyone in the web, browsing pages, reading them, and clicking links. So a query is just an automatically created part of a wiki page, in other words. So I could have also created this query directly from within the WYSIWYG editor using this question mark icon, but I'm lazy, so I just copy the text here. I got the same query, and if I click on insert query here, I'll get this question mark icon here, and whenever the page is saved, I'll get the query result in the format that I asked for. I get this rendered on the page itself. So that means whenever someone clicks on this page, I get this list. So you can also think about all the tasks which are assigned to me, which would be on my personal user homepage, listed there, and so on. Okay, so if it comes to searching for strings, which essentially was your question, I think then maybe queries are not the best way to do this. but searching might be more appropriate. But actually, I think we want a mix of both. And this faceted search feature that we have is a kind of combination of full text search on the one hand side and restricting or drilling down for data on the other side. So maybe I can try to find, I don't know. Okay, apparently there are only three tasks here. Don't know what happened. Okay, so this must be a bug because all your tasks are apparently not found here. That's not good. Okay, I have a bug in the installation. Apparently our full text index is not fully populated with all the recent changes that you did. I apologize. Otherwise we could have said, okay, please find me all the pages which are in this task category, and then we could say something that contain an E or something here, restricting the search from a full text point of view.
Can we use another full text search engine, like with word forms? Can we replace the search module of full text?
Yes, of course, but then you would also not have this user interface. So they are tightly coupled.
I see. So it's this part of faceted search is not replaceable. If we got rid of current full text search, we won't have the full faceted.
So yes, because faceted search is kind of a side feature of using the full text search, which is Solar in our case, storing the data and the text. And if you have all in your full text index properly aligned, then you can do full text search and drill down at the same time. And of course, you can replace this module with something else, but then you have to replace all the features as well. Yes, please. Say it again. Oh, embedding the search result is not possible on other pages right now. So this is a special page which allows you to browse through the data, but it's not kind of widget which you can use somewhere else. But actually we are thinking about features like this. Essentially, I think someone else is going to talk about Solar replacement for the MySQL store, which would more or less allow something like this, I think. Yes, please.
The question was not, do you mean in the wiki or in another website? Another website or on another page? Because on another page in the wiki you can just copy the code.
And so this is a special page, and special pages are, as Marcus mentioned already, especially special because they are not wiki pages. They are like programmed wiki pages. So that's yeah. So this is essentially asking another server, okay, please provide me with the results for this restriction. And I'm really sorry that this doesn't work because this is one of my favorite features. Too bad. Okay. And without knowing it, you already did your assignment. Very good. And this one, I think you also did. Coming to the second part of this tutorial now, and this is going to be so what we did just now was designing pages, entering text and tables and stuff, and adding data. So in the data base view, you would say you added some rows to your columns, more or less. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the schema, right? You saw categories and properties already, and properties at different types, like different data types and so on. And this is a schema of the wiki. And the schema is good because it guides users. It helps them populating the right properties, because if you don't have this, queries are really hard. If everyone uses different properties, there's no way of having one query collecting all this data together. So, and the ontology somehow provides a place to hold all these things together in a useful way. So this is a definition of an ontology. It's like 25 years old already, and I don't read this one, but I want to point out a few things. So the first thing is it's a specification, meaning it's a definition of things that are true. And this specification is formal and explicit, meaning that there's no redundancy, no vagueness, and computers can understand this, which is good for a system like ours. And the last feature of an ontology is that it's a shared conceptualization, meaning that all the users of the wiki, or at least the majority, should agree on the meaning of the terms defined in this ontology. That means everyone should understand what workshop means in this context, right? In this context, probably a workshop is similar setting like this one. It's not a place where people work and work with wood, for example. It's also a workshop, but not this one, right? So we must make sure that we know what we are talking about. So, and this is a sample ontology, and to point out the constituents of an ontology, essentially it contains of categories or concepts or classes. So these terms are very similar, if not equal, depending on the school you come from, the discipline, so to say. But for our purpose, we'll call these things categories, because that's also how they are called in Semantic MediaWiki. So we have a taxonomy of categories, like an is-a relationship, meaning a workshop is an event, is a subclass of, is a specialization of. They are all equivalent. An event is a thing, maybe, meaning that thing is like the most general concept or category that can be there. And these dashed arrows there represent relationships between categories. In Semantic MediaWiki, they are properties. An event has an attendee. You are all attendees of this event here. The project has a member. Persons are members of projects, work on projects. A project also has a budget, maybe, which is a number, or euros, or whatever. And all these things in gray, in the topmost box, they are what I would call the ontology or the schema. And this information can be modeled in Semantic MediaWiki+ and can be put into good use. Some of the things can also be modeled with Semantic MediaWiki, like there is a relationship between classes and the data type for the budget property. This can also be expressed in Semantic MediaWiki proper, but for example, the relationship between classes cannot. And on the data level, that's where we spent like the last half hour. We have instances of certain classes. We had instances of the task, of the category task, instantiating this, and we had relationship between the task and the assignee, for example. And in this case, real instances instantiate classes, and there are real instances of the relationships between those instances. Okay, how does how do the constituents of the wiki map, of the ontology map into the wiki? So, as I already said, a category, they are the gray boxes that I showed. They are category pages, or there are wiki pages in the category namespace in Semantic MediaWiki. That means there's a one-to-one relationship between category and page in this namespace. The yellow boxes that I had, they represent instances, and they are wiki pages in the main namespace. That means every instance, every object, if you want, is represented by a page in the main namespace. And the dashed lines, they are represented as properties, and again, they are wiki pages, as Marcus demonstrated this morning. But what's more important is probably the instantiation of some of those properties. There is a link, or the subclass relationship between categories is represented using a category annotation on a category page, whereas the instance of relationship here is also using the exact same annotation, but on a different kind of page. So because everything is on the page where the arrows start from, on the Daniel page, which is in the main namespace, meaning that it's an instance, we have a category person annotation, meaning Daniel is a person. This is a real guy. And if we have the same annotation, let's say on the employee page, which is in the category namespace, then it would mean employees are persons. That means the class employee is a subclass of the class category. Okay. So in other words, the first annotation creates the tree, whereas the second one only creates the bottom line links between instances and classes. Then the actual properties, there it actually doesn't matter whether the value of the property is a page or an object or is a number or a string or whatever. The annotations are the same. We use the angle brackets and the square brackets and double colons to separate the property name from its value or objects. And it doesn't matter on what kind of page those annotations are stored. So in other words, this is a syntax that you already saw in this morning, and this is like the conceptual idea behind this. And ontologies most of the time is more than the pure taxonomy and the definition of the properties, because properties have their own properties or characteristics. For example, every property must have a type. In Semantic MediaWiki, the default type is page. Whenever you don't say anything about the property, it's assumed it goes from one page to another. That's just the default. But you can say, okay, actually, this property is not pointing to a page, but it's just representing some text or a string, or it is an email address or something. That means it defines a data type for this property. And it's useful knowledge because, as Marcus showed in the morning, if you want to do comparison, you have to compare numbers differently than strings. And comparing wiki pages is probably even not really well defined what it means. So in SMW Plus, properties, in addition to the type property, which exists in Semantic MediaWiki, also we support the domain and range for properties, saying, okay, a property like here, the property attendee works for a Semantic Wiki tutorial class, and all values of this attendee property should come. No, wait. This is wrong. Okay, I must talk about this one. So in Semantic MediaWiki Plus, you can say for the has member property that the domain of this property should is project, and the range of this property is person, meaning that you should use the has member property only on project pages, and the values of the has member property should come from persons. That means instance of persons should be values here. And this is very useful for the user experience, because if it's completely unrestricted, there's no way that you can help the users, for example, in filling forms. But if you know the domain and range, you know you can actually derive for property for pages that are projects, I want all those 5 or 10 properties listed in my form, and you can even verify that the values for those properties fulfill this value restriction here for the range. Other other characteristics of properties could be, you could define a fixed set of possible values like red, green, and red for color or something, and you can specify the cardinality, saying this property should have between 1 and 5 values, or must have at most two different values, and so on. And all these ontological statements that you add to the wiki help you in when you look into autocompletion, when you fill out forms, when you search for stuff, and you know the context, then this knowledge coming from the ontology can really help you in, or can help all the users in proposing the right values, or to check whether a page is formulated according to the ontology. In this way, the consistency of the wiki can be tested, because there are properties now which are defined by someone in the ontology, which can be used to test the consistency of the wiki pages. Okay, so creating an ontology, as I said, is must be done by the community. We must agree on this. So I would propose that we create our own ontology now together, but not using the tool, but using discussion, and I would make some notes on the whiteboard. And afterwards, I will show you how to enter this ontology in the wiki, so that we can make use of this ontology. Maybe I can have 7 minutes or something brainstorming on an ontology. This is already once about celebrities, so I already know what kind. Okay, no, everyone knows the world of celebrity, right? Can you now think about how to turn this world knowledge into an ontology? Yeah. Okay, I'll start. I propose the category celebrity, and maybe you can just call names for properties, categories, everything that comes to mind, which we can later turn into an ontology. Okay? So I need your help now. Really. How do you measure? Okay. I wouldn't know.
Well, let's say it's a number from 1 to 5.
Okay, 5-star rating. Okay, I won't make, I don't write this down. I'm just brainstorming now. Okay?
Name.
What?
Name.
Name is usually a good idea. The problem in MediaWiki is that the wiki title already is a name, but nevertheless.
The reason why?
Okay, a politician is good. Okay, politician is good.
No, the type of celebrity. So why?
Type.
Maybe style.
Okay, they're all fuzzy properties. Date of birth, very good. Hometown, yeah, we're getting somewhere.
He's known for.
Yeah. Wow, accomplishment.
That's not useful, because Marcus said you couldn't query for an absence of information.
Okay, that means every celebrity must have at least one. Otherwise, it's none. Okay, maybe other different kinds of celebrities. We have singer, good. What used Lance Armstrong to be before? Portman. Okay, let me write actor, author, writer maybe. Author. Don't go there. Author.
MediaWiki.
No, this class is too small. Okay, let me add something like income or something. Homepage, probably also. Twitter account, yes, very good. Okay, maybe this is enough. And now we try to turn this brainstorm stuff into the formal model. That's what we're going to do now, right? If it works out, you will magically learn what ontologies are good for. The tool I'm going to use, and now please don't follow me, otherwise the ontology is on the schema level, so it's a little brittle if many people work on it together at the same time. So this is a ontology browser, and we see the taxonomy tree, the category tree on the left-hand side. So I'm going to create a new category. And if I click here, we'll see that it doesn't have any instances and no properties, of course. But what if we add now subclasses of this guy? So maybe you can suggest stuff. So every artist is a celebrity, maybe. But just for the sake of this model. What else did we have? Singer. Singers are artists, right? Could we say so? And actors are artists. And sports person is the right term, right? Okay, and anyway. So what I just did, I created this taxonomy tree, but in reality, I created like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wiki pages, right? In the category namespace. And all those wiki pages have some annotations already now, namely the ones which make up this taxonomy tree. Maybe I can just go to politician. So you see, okay, it's the category politician page, and it says I'm the subcategory of celebrity. So with just a few mouse clicks, I created the pages. So this is the set of, or some set of categories that we gathered, and now we want to assign properties to those classes.
Could you insert a level? Like,
What would you suggest?
No, like celebrity, that's what I meant when I type. The next level is celebrity, type, and then
Yeah, but I think this is not a level in the taxonomy.
okay. But anyway, technically.
Technically, I think I can, yeah. Wait, let's try. No. So there are artists and performing artists compared to the others are called. So a singer is a performing artist, and nothing. This used to work, but it doesn't. Okay, so the way you insert levels in between is you create this and then you reattach the existing classes. So this is not print. Updated.
Can we inherit the category from two or more other categories?
Yeah. Yes, you can. But multiple inheritance is possible, yes. But on the schema level, this is probably, in this case, it's probably not what you want. But it's possible. So anyway, so let's come back to the properties here. So maybe there are some properties which exist for all for all different kinds of celebrities. I would suggest the name, right? And the name is a string, and it should be mandatory. If I add this now, you'll see that, okay, name with cardinality at least 1 must be present for all celebrities. And when I go to artist, this is still here, but in italics, meaning, okay, it's inherited from the supercategory. And maybe I can just add another property here, saying known for no accomplishment. Which I don't know, it's probably not a string, but another wiki page where we can say more about those accomplishments, maybe. So I just leave this open, I just say, okay, it's of type page, but not restricted anymore. But maybe, let me add a new unrelated class here. I'm just adding the category movie in order to be able to say that actors have a relationship to movies. Right? Some of them.
Helpful with the domain range property also?
Yes, it's helpful. That's what I'm just doing now. So domain is not necessary because the domain is what you see on the left-hand side. This is the domain, and on the third column you see the properties for this domain.
So our domain is celebrity.
No, currently it's actor. So the one that is selected. Okay, all actors own small dogs. Okay, this is a very particular property. Nevertheless,
Why is movie a kind of celebrity?
why is what?
Movie a kind of celebrity.
It is not. Where did you? Oh, if it is, then it's not what I wanted to do. That's weird. That's wrong. That's only wrong. Okay, but just let me add some more properties so that we can see the ontology at work in a few minutes. So celebrity. Income, maybe a number. And then let me show you one thing. Politicians, they are affiliated with the party, maybe. Which is of type page. And so what I'd like to do next is to use this ontology to create instances. And we have seen this new page button before, and instead of creating an empty page, we can also say, actually, I want to create a page. I want to create a celebrity, or I want to create a page for an artist or something. Maybe let's use Hector in this case. I just create this page, and I see that the Hector annotation is here, and magically, because we have this ontology model, we get a form created on the fly based on the schema that we just created. This probably is not the best possible form, but it's auto-generated and it's always in sync with the model. Right? Whenever you change the model and you come back to this page, the form will have updated. So now we can enter stuff. Okay. I'm not good at this. Stars in Terminator. Does he have a dog? I don't know. Divorces? At least one, right? Okay, his name is Arnold. Income, I just guesstimated. Something like this. I don't know. I know. So, and he used to be a politician at the same time, so I'm just making this up now, right? Let me add another. Oh, there's something not working here. Okay, this is the set of properties that we just defined for Arnold. Let me just make this guy also a member of another category, namely politician. this page has slightly changed, only the additional annotation is added. But if I go to the edit mode now, I'll see the form has slightly changed. First, I see a new property which wasn't there before, namely the affiliated with party one, because it only applies to politicians. And the layout has slightly changed because Arnold is a member of two categories, namely politician and actor, but they have common properties and so on. And the form is provides exactly those properties that you expect, but also helps you to organize them according to the category that this guy belongs to right now. So maybe you can do the same now. Choose your favorite celebrity and try to instantiate him or her. And if you are missing certain properties, just yell out and I'll add them. Or you do it yourself, like those here. Like maybe like 50% of the properties which I and I'm monitoring your progress. Very good. Did you manage to see the form automatically created in the ontology? Who did see this form yet? You wish I can help. You want help?
Still missing.
Too bad. So when the wiki is installed, it contains two bundles, and this is like the set of wiki pages, and they are organized with this button. Always
then better bug. Okay, yeah. This is not that good.
And then here,
Yeah, this must not be.
I know that
Yeah, you guys may but since we are a smaller team, we will not be able to maintain all this from SMW Plus, we are working on yeah, but will be okay, we got many celebrities. I think that's good enough. Telling me that you were able to use most of the tools that that are presented. Coming back to the presentation for the last minute, I'm essentially just going to do a small wrap-up, explaining what you saw today and what we used today. So at the beginning, we created articles and entered text, images, tables, and stuff using the WYSIWYG editor, the data toolbar, and semantic forms, or even automatic semantic forms. Then we created an ontology with the data explorer and used the data that we entered from within the query interface and pressed the search to some extent. So if you want to learn more about the software, there's a web page, smwplus.net, which also allows you to download the software, where you get documentation for the components and so on, and where we will be around to answer your questions. So check it out, and we'll be happy to support you in your process. If you need more than SMW, this might be the place to go. I think that's it. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Say it again. SMW Plus is open source as Semantic MediaWiki, but it's not hosted on the MediaWiki server right now.
Any intention to change that?
Just to move to MediaWiki server.
Yeah, just from our experience, I think there has always been a big advantage because you get a lot of feedback and also code from the community. But recently, with the change to Git and the online reviewing system, it turns out it has a great positive impact on our number of contributors and also portfolio.
Oh, interesting.
So it's really, there are many good reasons now to go there.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to do this, and now I have a little bit more freedom to decide where I want to host the software. And very likely we are going to do this. Although Git seems to be quite of a headache, at least for me.
It is, but one brain adapts to it.
Okay, okay. Any more questions?
The SMW Plus in touch with MediaWiki?
More or less. So Semantic MediaWiki is evolving like MediaWiki does, and keeping track of the changes requires manpower and budget to fund this, right? And to the extent we can, we do that. We do this. And our plan is, of course, to be always on the latest branch, on the latest releases, but that's not always possible, and probably not. We'll not always be in sync.
To what extent can I edit the properties on the wiki pages externally? Like edit the property, but this property can be come from the template. And how can I?
The property value?
The
You mean?
property value, of course.
Ah, okay.
So how would you deal with this?
Okay, so everything, the tools that you saw, they act on the annotations, but they don't create any templates. They create proper annotations because templates are quite messy. They are expressive, but dealing with them in an automatic way is really hard. For example, having a template on a page which contains all the annotations and the display information and so on, there's no way that the rich text editor could be able to help you supporting this. So we decided to have proper annotation of the pages, and whenever we want to display them in a certain way, we use the show function for that.
Yeah. What about semantic forms? They are working on the template level.
Ah, okay. So what you saw, the forms that you saw here, the forms that I showed, they are automatically created on the fly. If you want, they create a template and a form when you click on edit, and afterwards they remove them again and only store the data on the page. That means this mechanism does not make use of the forms and templates. I should say, if you have a form defined for a certain category, for example, then this takes precedence over the automatic ones. But you would lose the synchronicity to the ontology, for example, or the automatic creation of the forms and so on. You would need to do for this category, for example, you need to create the form yourself manually. But it's compatible.
Are there any problems because of maybe the editor?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there are incompatibilities, but this is how it is in the MediaWiki world, especially if the version changes, and there's no guarantee that after an update your compatibility will still be in place.
And there is not a known API to develop extensions for There's no API to develop extensions for MediaWiki, in fact. Programming API. I mean, no, not the client API, but the set of classes that changes rarely.
Yeah. Do you have this particular application in mind?
Yeah, maybe if you want to develop an extension for the editor, for example, this is possible.
So I think that was your question before about extending the CK editor. Or no, someone else. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I was standing here probably. So this editor is not designed to be extended. Yeah, but as everything in the MediaWiki world, if you look in the code, you'll be able to find your hooks. But because it's possible, it also breaks compatibility easily, because the guy who created the editor in the first place does not know that you use that you extended his code in a particular way, and it can break. So it's a good thing that you can extend. It's also a bad thing that you can do essentially everything. So.
Another question regarding your company. Do you support SMW Plus and also semantic installation?
Yes. So we are the developers of SMW Plus. So we maintain this, and we do offer professional services. And if you choose not to use SMW Plus but SMW proper, we'll be happy to help you as well.
How many people work at your company?
We are 5.
Which country do you support?
Which what?
Which country do you?
We take whatever we can get.
Okay.
About the plans on the future support, do you have in your priorities to be more tight with the open source community? I mean, try to push your changes to the core of Semantic MediaWiki so you can.
This is probably not going to happen, because as I understand, as Semantic MediaWiki is trying to reduce the code base and to move certain features even out of the core.
I mean,
So.
Basically get rid of the patches.
Okay, I don't think we have any SMW patches anymore, except for the ACL extension, for example. But there it will be required always.
So you already done it.
But for Semantic MediaWiki, I don't think SMW is not patching.
MediaWiki and Semantic MediaWiki. So
Semantic Forms, for example, is patched from the WYSIWYG editor for certain things. And in the past, we did try to get certain things into the existing extensions and didn't succeed. So.
Maybe kind of advice. I was interested also in SMW Plus when it run by Enterprise, and they quit in spring of this year. And then we decided to switch to the open source semantic bundle. And maybe it would be good, like on my colleague, he said that you should try, for example, the Ontology browser is a kind of extension for the normal proper semantic MediaWiki. I think that would be more interesting to the community, and we reach a more users than if you just do it in your package.
I don't understand.
For example, there's an Ontology browser. It's quite a good software we want to use also,
yeah.
But we not want to use it with the complete package of the SMW Plus package. So maybe you can split the code and say, okay, here's the extension for the proper semantic MediaWiki. And you can use the Ontology browser as an extension, for example. It would be.
If you would install the Halo extension where this Ontology browser is installed, I think your problems are solved.
Yeah, with the Halo extension, but there are lots of other extensions also.
Then you don't use them.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And the code is on SourceForge. Everyone can use it. So. It's not like we are hiding anything, right?
Yeah,
but it's not.
It's open source.
Yeah.
It's always a kind of package. You know what I mean? And we have problems because what's going on with Enterprise, and we don't know. And when it's in the community.
Whatever it means to be in the community.
Whatever.
Does it mean it's hosted on a server somewhere? Probably not.
For example, there's the possibility to update the repository, and when Enterprise quit it, there was no repository anymore.
I can't do anything about this.
Yeah,
Sure, you can't do anything from it, but kind of advice to do it way different than autocorrect.
But to be, yeah, okay, I got your point, but I don't really know what immediate action to take on this.
Use it. I mean, migrate. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I already agreed to this. Yeah.
I think this would solve many of these concerns. I mean, this is always an issue, of course. If you have open source with a closed development process, then there's always a risk that you rely on one party to maintain these things. And as soon as you are in such a large and well-maintained community like MediaWiki, you have huge resources for free. And I think this would already make a big step.
Okay.
I mean, of course, you lose some amount of control, but not that much. I mean, you still are the main person to say what's going into your extension.
Yeah, actually, this was some topic I wanted to get input from how this Git process works at MediaWiki at all. So.
Yeah, I think we should just discuss it one.
Yeah, very good. So I think time's up. Okay.
It sort of relates to what we have to be talking about with both version control. When you did the drop down from the query interface, you didn't have all the options that I've got, like pie charts and stuff, which is semantic results. Is it your intention to try and match up with semantic results?
When semantic result formats would have been installed, you would have seen a longer list.
Some of the stuff in your bundle, the jQuery stuff, isn't working in semantic MediaWiki upgraded it. So you're on 1.7 there and 1.8.
Okay, yeah, this is the version conflict that we talked about before. This is when things change. You cannot change everything at the same time. And
the second bit, there's a flyer on one of your sites that said you've got a Flash extension to do pie charts.
I think this is old. I'm not sure, but I think this is old. Okay, anything? Then guten Appetit.